The winter wind cut through the Texas prairie like a skinning knife, and Ayanna had nothing left but the blanket wrapped around her shoulders and the small fire she'd managed to coax from damp sage. 3 days ago, she'd fled the reservation where soldiers had confined her people like cattle. 3 days since she'd watched them drag her younger brother away in chains for defending their meager rations. 3 days of walking with nothing but rage and grief fueling each step. Her stomach cramped with hunger as she stared into the flames. The beaded leather pouch at her waist contained her last possession of value, a turquoise pendant her grandmother had given her before the white man's promises turned to ash. Tomorrow, she'd trade it for food in the nearest settlement if they didn't shoot her on sight for being Comanche. If you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to subscribe to the From Wild West channel and leave a like on this video. It truly means everything to us and motivates us to bring you more quality content like this. Thank you so much for your support. The sound of a horse's labored breathing made her hand fly to the knife at her belt. From the darkness beyond her fire's glow, a rider emerged. Barely. The man was slumped forward in his saddle. One hand pressed against his side, where blood had turned his shirt black. He swayed dangerously as his mount stopped near the warmth. "Please," he rasped, his voice rough as gravel. "Just let me rest by your fire. I'll be gone by dawn." Ayanna's first instinct was to refuse. White men had brought her nothing but suffering. But when he tried to dismount and nearly fell, something in her couldn't turn away. Perhaps it was because she understood what it meant to be hunted, to be desperate and alone. She moved quickly, helping to steady him as he half collapsed to the ground. "You're wounded badly," she said in careful English, though her native tongue wanted to surface. "Knife fight 3 days ago." His words came between harsh breaths. "Turns out, my bounty hunting days might be over." A bounty hunter, of course. Ayanna's jaw tightened. But the man was already unconscious. His tall frame sprawled near her fire. She could leave him to freeze. It would be justice for all the men of his profession who'd hunted her people for sport. But the healers of her tribe had taught her that all life was sacred, even that of your enemy. With practiced hands, she examined his wound. The gash along his ribs was deep but clean, not yet festering. She tore strips from the hem of her already tattered dress and used water from her nearly empty canteen to clean the injury. The man groaned but didn't wake as she bound his ribs tightly. The temperature dropped further as midnight approached. Frost formed on the sparse grass around their camp. Ayanna fed the fire carefully, rationing her small pile of fuel. She could feel the stranger shivering, even in his unconscious state. Death by cold was a real possibility. "He would let you freeze," a bitter voice whispered in her mind. "He hunts people for money." But another voice, her grandmother's voice, reminded her, "We do not become our enemies. We remain human when they have forgotten how." Ayanna made her decision. She moved closer to the stranger, wrapped her blanket around both of them, and shared what little warmth she had. His body was furnace hot with fever, yet his shivers gradually subsided as she pressed against his side, careful to avoid his wound. "Why?" His voice startled her. His eyes, a striking gray like storm clouds, were open and fixed on her face. "Why help me?" "Because unlike you, I don't measure the worth of a life by the price on someone's head," she said coldly. He winced, though whether from pain or her words, she couldn't tell. "Fair enough. A pause. Name's Cole Bennett, and you're right to hate me. I'm Ayanna, and I don't hate you. Hatred requires caring enough to feel something. A ghost of a smile touched his cracked lips. You're sharing your blanket with me, Ayanna. That's something. Only because watching you freeze would haunt me. Don't mistake survival for kindness. Cole's eyes drifted closed again, but his hand moved almost unconsciously to rest near hers. The Comanche woman shared her blanket with a stranger, not knowing he was a wanted bounty hunter. He murmured, half delirious, "There's poetry in that, or maybe just irony." "You talk too much for a dying man," Ayanna replied, but she checked his bandage and adjusted the blanket more securely around them both. Through the long, cold night, she kept watch. Every hour she fed the fire. Every time his fever spiked and he became restless, she cooled his forehead with her damp cloth. By the time dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of amber and rose, Cole's breathing had evened out and his fever had broken. Ayanna was preparing to slip away when his hand caught her wrist. The grip was weak but insistent. "Don't go yet," he said. "Please. I have no reason to stay." "I have nothing to offer you but honesty," Cole said, pushing himself up with obvious difficulty. "You saved my life. That means something to me, even if it doesn't to you." Ayanna studied him in the morning light. His face was lean and weathered, with several days' worth of dark stubble shadowing his jaw. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, old and faded, but it was his eyes that caught her attention. They held a weariness that went deeper than his physical injuries. "You're a bounty hunter," she said flatly. "You track people for money. How much do you think I'm worth?" Cole's expression tightened. "I don't hunt innocent people." "Is that what you tell yourself? That everyone with a price on their head deserves it?" Ayanna's voice rose despite her intention to remain detached. "My brother has a bounty. His crime? Stopping a soldier from beating our mother. Tell me, Cole Bennett, would you have brought him in for that money?" The silence stretched between them like a chasm. "I'm sorry," Cole finally said, and the words sounded genuine. "I've made choices I'm not proud of. Told myself it was justice, when sometimes it was just rape. Easier than having principles." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm telling you the truth, even though lying would be smarter." He struggled to stand, had to lean against his horse for support. "And because I'm going to help you find your brother." Ayanna stared at him. "What?" "I know the system. I know the camps where they take captured natives. I know which commanders can be bribed and which ones can't." Cole's jaw set with determination, despite the pain clearly etched on his face. "You saved my life. The least I can do is help you save his." "You can barely stand." "Then I'll sit while you do the standing. Look, I'm done with bounty hunting anyway. That knife fight? It was over a 16-year-old kid whose only crime was stealing food for his sisters. I couldn't bring him in. Told his pursuer to go to hell. Now I'm the one with a price on my head." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out the man I told off was a senator's son. Didn't take that well." Ayanna wanted to walk away. Every instinct told her not to trust this man. But something in his eyes, in the defeated slope of his shoulders, made her pause. "If you're lying to me, I'm not." Cole interrupted. "And I'll prove it. What's your brother's name? When was he taken? I can find out where he is." Over the next hour, as they shared the last of Ayanna's dried meat and Cole's canteen of water, she told him everything. Her voice remained steady, even as she recounted the worst moments. Soldiers burning their shelters, families separated, the reservation's corrupt Indian agent selling their supplies and pocketing the money. Cole listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "The commander at Fort Richardson," he finally said. The vast Texas landscape stretched endlessly in all directions, beautiful and merciless in equal measure. She'd been raised to read this land, to find water in dry creek beds and tracks on hard stone. But she didn't know how to navigate the white man's world of forts and commanders and bribes. "I don't trust you," she said, without turning around. Smart. Cole had somehow managed to stand and was checking his horse's legs for injuries. "But you need me, and whether you believe it or not, I need to do this. Need to do one decent thing to balance the scales. Redemption isn't a transaction. Maybe not, but it's a start." They rode together as the sun climbed higher, Cole swaying occasionally in his saddle, but refusing to stop. Ayanna led them away from the main trails, using paths her people had traveled for generations. By midday, they reached an abandoned homestead. 4 walls and a roof, more shelter than either had enjoyed in days. "We stop here," Ayanna commanded. "You're bleeding through your bandage." Cole started to protest, but his ashen complexion told its own story. Inside the homestead's single room, Ayanna built a fire in the stone hearth, while Cole collapsed against the far wall. She heated water in a dented pot someone had left behind and unwrapped his wound. "It's opened again," she said, trying to keep the worry from her voice. "Just rebandage it. I'll be fine." "You'll be dead if this gets infected." Ayanna pulled out a small pouch from her belongings, precious herbs she'd managed to carry from home. "This will hurt." "Everything hurts," Cole replied, but his attempt at humor died when she pressed the herbal paste into his wound. His entire body went rigid, a strangled sound escaping his throat. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Go slow," he gasped. "It hurts." "I know," Ayanna said softly, working as quickly as she dared. "But this will keep the wound clean. My grandmother taught me." "Your grandmother? Was she a healer?" "She was everything. Healer, warrior, storyteller." Ayanna's hands stilled for a moment. "The soldiers killed her during a relocation. She was 70 winters old and couldn't walk fast enough to suit them." Cole's hand found her wrist, his grip gentle this time. "I'm sorry. There are no words for how wrong that is." She met his eyes and found no pity there, only understanding and genuine grief. It disarmed her more than any sympathy could have. "Why did you become a bounty hunter?" she asked, finishing the bandaging. Cole was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My wife and daughter were killed 6 years ago. Raiders attacked our farm while I was in town. By the time I got back," he closed his eyes, "I couldn't save them. So I decided to save everyone else. Or at least that's what I told myself. Reality was, I was just looking for someone to punish, and bounty hunting gave me legal permission to do it. That's not saving people, that's revenge. I know that now." Cole's laugh was hollow. "Took me years and a knife to the ribs to figure it out." Ayanna sat back on her heels, studying him. "What was her name? Your wife?" "Margaret. Called her Maggie. And our daughter was Sarah. She was only 4. His voice roughened. She had this laugh like wind chimes. God, I'd give anything to hear it again. Without thinking, Ayanna reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, and they sat in silence as the fire crackled and afternoon light filtered through cracks in the walls. "I see a man worth saving," Ayanna said quietly. "Not the bounty hunter. The man underneath who still remembers how to grieve." Cole's eyes, when they opened, were bright with unshed tears. I see a woman who's stronger than any warrior I've ever tracked. Stronger, because you choose compassion even when the world's given you every reason not to. The moment stretched between them, fragile and profound. Then Cole winced and broke the spell. "Tell me about your brother," he said. "What's he like?" Ayana smiled for the first time in days. Makia means eagle hunter in our language. He's 17, stubborn as a mule, and thinks he's invincible, always trying to prove himself to the other young men. Her smile faded. "That's why he did it," challenged that soldier. "He thought he was protecting our mother's honor. But now he's paying for having courage," Cole finished. "We'll get him back, Ayana. I promise you. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'll die before I break this one." They rested at the homestead for 2 days while Cole regained his strength. During that time, they fell into an unexpected rhythm. Ayana hunted small game with snares she fashioned from wire she found in the barn. Cole showed her how to maintain his weapons and taught her to shoot his rifle, insisting she needed to protect herself. "Your hands are shaking," he said on the second afternoon, standing behind her as she aimed at a bottle they'd set up as a target. "I've never used a gun before. I can tell." His arms came around her, hands guiding hers into position. "Breathe out slowly, then squeeze, don't pull, the trigger between heartbeats." Ayana was acutely aware of his chest against her back, his breath warm against her ear. She forced herself to focus on the target, following his instructions. The rifle's kick surprised her, but the bottle exploded in a satisfying spray of glass. "Like that," Cole said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "You're a natural." When she turned, they were standing impossibly close. Cole's hand came up, almost touching her cheek, before he caught himself and stepped back. "Sorry," he said. "I shouldn't..." "Shouldn't what?" Ayana challenged, surprised by her own boldness. "You're not property," Cole said firmly. "You're a person who's already been through hell. I won't add to that by wanting things I have no right to want." "What if I want them too?" The question hung in the air between them. Cole's expression was torn, desire warring with honor. "Ayana, you don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not anything else. This isn't about owing." She stepped closer, her hand reaching up to touch the scar on his face. "This is about two people who've both lost everything, finding something worth holding on to." "I'm a mess," Cole whispered. "Broken, haunted. I've got a price on my head and enemies in every territory. And I'm a Comanche woman in a world that wants my people erased. We're both running from death, Cole Bennett. Maybe we can outrun it together." He kissed her then, gentle and hesitant, as if she might shatter. Ayana kissed him back with all the loneliness and fear and desperate hope she'd been carrying. His arms came around her, careful of her smaller frame, holding her like she was something precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "Together," he said. "Together," she echoed. That night, they lay by the fire wrapped in her blanket, Cole's arms around her, both of them haunted by demons, but finding temporary peace in each other's presence. Ayana traced the scars on his hands, evidence of a violent life, and told him stories of her people, of great hunts and brave warriors, and the time before everything changed. "Your grandmother would be proud of you," Cole murmured. "The way you've survived, the way you keep your humanity. She'd tell me I'm foolish for trusting you. She'd be right. Maybe." Ayana tilted her head to look at him. Or maybe she'd say that sometimes the bravest thing is to have faith when there's no logical reason to. Cole's kiss was his only answer. On the third day, they rode for Fort Richardson. Cole had fashioned a disguise of sorts, civilian clothes from the homestead, and a hat pulled low over his features. Ayanna wore a simple dress they'd found, her long black hair braided and hidden under a shawl. They looked like dozens of other frontier couples making their way across Texas. Major Thornton's weakness is whiskey and bribes, Cole explained as they made camp a few miles from the fort. I'll need to approach him carefully. If he recognizes me, then we find another way, Ayanna said firmly. You're not dying for my brother. Ayanna, no. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. We do this together, or not at all. I won't lose you. The vulnerability in her eyes made Cole's chest ache. You won't lose me, I promise. They entered the fort's trading post the next day, Cole doing the talking, while Ayanna pretended to examine fabric. Through careful conversation with the post's owner and a significant bribe from the last of Cole's savings, they learned that prisoners were kept in a stockade behind the barracks. 16 Comanche men, the trader said, pocketing the money. They're scheduled for transport to the Oklahoma Territory next week. Hard labor detail. After dark, Cole and Ayanna circled the fort's perimeter. The stockade was heavily guarded, at least 4 soldiers visible. We can't fight our way through, Cole said. We need a distraction. What kind of distraction? Cole's smile was grim. The dangerous kind. You're not going to like it. He was right. Ayanna hated his plan, which involved Cole turning himself in to Major Thornton in exchange for negotiating the release of a valuable Indian scout, namely Ayanna's brother. It relied on Thornton being more interested in claiming credit for capturing a wanted bounty hunter than in retaining one Comanche prisoner. It's too risky, Ayanna argued. What if he just keeps you both? Then you get to say you were right not to trust me. Cole cupped her face in his hands. Ayanna, this is our best shot. Thornton knows me, knows I used to bring in high-value targets. He'll want the glory of capturing me more than he wants your brother. And how do we get you out afterward? One problem at a time. The next morning, Cole walked into Fort Richardson's commander's office, while Ayanna waited in agony at their camp. Hours passed like years. She paced, checked and rechecked her weapons, and tried not to imagine all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. When sunset approached and Cole hadn't returned, Ayanna made a decision. She wasn't waiting anymore. She entered the fort during the evening shift change, wrapped in her shawl, eyes downcast. Playing the role of a defeated native woman, nobody looked twice at her as she made her way to the stockade, where prisoners were being given their evening meal. Makya, she whispered through the wooden slats, her heart hammering when she spotted her brother's gaunt face. His head snapped up, disbelief and hope warring in his expression. Ayanna, how? No time. Where is the white man who turned himself in today? The bounty hunter. Thornton has him in the commander's quarters. Plans to transport him to Austin for trial. Makya's hands gripped the wood. Sister, you have to leave. If they catch you, they won't. Ayanna pressed a small knife through the gap. Tomorrow night, there'll be a distraction. Be ready. She was turning to leave when rough hands grabbed her arms. Well, a voice drawled. Looks like we've got ourselves another prisoner. Major Thornton was a thick-set man with cold eyes and whiskey on his breath. He studied Ayanna with the expression of someone who'd found an unexpected prize. She one of yours? He called toward the stockade. When Makya stayed silent, Thornton's smile widened. Thought so. Take her to the holding cell. Ayanna fought, But there were 3 soldiers and her knife had already been confiscated. They dragged her across the parade ground toward a small building she recognized from Cole's description, the holding cell where they kept prisoners awaiting transport. The door opened, and Ayanna was thrown inside. She caught herself against the far wall, spinning to face her captor, and found Cole chained to a ring bolt in the corner, his face bruised and one eye swollen shut. "Ayanna," he breathed, horror and relief mixing in his voice. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you, apparently," she snapped, then lowered her voice. "Are you all right?" "Been better." Cole tested his chains. Solid iron, bolted deep into the wooden wall. "Thornton's angrier than I expected. Seems I made him look bad in front of his superiors a few years back. This is personal for him." Ayanna moved to examine his restraints, but the door opened again. Thornton entered, accompanied by 2 guards. "Isn't this touching?" the major said. "The bounty hunter and his savage whore. Tell me, Bennett, is she why you went soft? Why you let that senator's boy walk? Leave her alone, Thornton. This is between you and me." "Oh, I disagree." Thornton's hand shot out, grabbing Ayanna's chin and forcing her to look at him. "She's Comanche, isn't she? And young. I bet I could get good money for a pretty thing like her. Some of the ranchers are always looking for house servants." Cole's chains rattled violently as he lunged forward, stopped short by the bolts. "Touch her again, and I'll kill you. You're not in a position to make threats." Thornton's grip tightened, and Ayanna couldn't suppress a wince. "Maybe I'll keep her here for a while first. The men could use some entertainment." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Cole's voice, when he spoke, was absolutely calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. "You're not that stupid, William. She's got family in that stockade. You hurt her, you'll have 16 Comanche warriors willing to die to make you pay. And when word gets out, and it will, you'll have every native tribe in Texas hunting you. Your career will be over before the week's out." Thornton's hand dropped, and Ayanna saw genuine calculation in his eyes. After a long moment, he spat on the floor and stormed out, his guards following. Once they were alone, Cole sagged against his chains. "God, Ayanna, you shouldn't be here. Neither should you." She moved to him, examining his face in the dim light filtering through the barred window. His beautiful gray eyes were pained, and blood crusted the corner of his mouth. "We need to get out of here." "Working on it." Cole managed a weak smile. "Got any brilliant ideas?" Ayanna did, actually. She'd grown up with stories of her ancestors' legendary escapes, and looking around the holding cell, old wood, loose mortar, a window just large enough, she began to form a plan. "Can you get out of those chains?" she asked. "Not without the key." "Then we get the key." "Ayanna." "No." She knelt beside him, her hands framing his battered face. "You came here for my brother, risked everything. Now I'm doing the same for you. Together, remember?" Cole's eyes searched hers. "I'll die before I let him hurt you." "Then don't die." She kissed him, tasting blood and determination. "Live, fight, help me save everyone." What Ayanna had noticed was that the night guard, a young private who seemed barely old enough to shave, brought their evening meal, and he always came alone. When the private entered with 2 plates of beans and hardtack, Ayanna was ready. She'd loosened a board in the wall, working at it for hours while pretending to sleep. As the guard set down the plates, she yanked the board free and swung it with all her strength. The private crumpled. Cole was already moving, awkwardly dragging his chains to where the unconscious guard lay. Ayana found the key ring on the man's belt, hands shaking as she tried each key until Cole's restraints finally clicked open. "Your brother?" Cole asked, already moving toward the door. "The stockade. We need to." Shouting erupted outside. Apparently, someone had noticed the private's absence. Cole grabbed the soldier's rifle and pistol, tossing the smaller gun to Ayana. "You remember what I taught you? Breathe out. Squeeze between heartbeats. That's my girl." Cole's smile was fierce and proud. "Let's go get your brother." What followed was chaos. Cole shot out the lock on the stockade, while Ayana covered their escape route. Makia and the other prisoners poured out, some grabbing weapons from the armory, others just running for the horses. Bullets whistled past. Soldiers shouted orders. Cole moved like he'd been born to this, efficient, deadly, always keeping himself between Ayana and the worst of the danger. "Get to the horses," he roared to the fleeing prisoners. "North Canyon, there's cover." They were almost clear when Major Thornton appeared, his rifle aimed directly at Ayana. Time seemed to slow. Cole threw himself forward, and the rifle's crack seemed impossibly loud. Cole staggered but kept moving, tackling Thornton to the ground. They grappled in the dirt, and Ayana saw the knife in Thornton's hand, saw it arcing toward Cole's ribs. Without thinking, she fired. The Major went still. Cole pushed himself up, breathing hard, blood spreading across his shirt. But he was alive. "Go!" Makia materialized beside them, helping to support Cole. "More soldiers coming." They ran. Ayana and Makia half-carried Cole between them, while bullets churned the dirt around their feet. Somehow they reached the horses. Somehow they got Cole mounted. Somehow they made it into the darkness of the canyon, with pursuit thundering behind them. The other freed prisoners scattered in different directions, making it harder to track any single group. Makia led them through a series of narrow passages that eventually opened onto the vast prairie. By dawn, they'd ridden far enough that the sounds of pursuit had faded. Cole was barely conscious, slumped forward in his saddle. The bullet had torn through his shoulder, the opposite side from his knife wound. Ayana's hands were steady as she helped him down and began the now familiar process of treating his injuries. "You keep getting shot," she said, trying to keep her voice light, even as fear threatened to choke her. "Hazard of the profession." Cole winced as she probed the wound. "Through and through. That's good, right?" "It's something." She looked up at her brother. "We need shelter, somewhere safe." Makia nodded. "I know a place. An old cave system our people used. 2 days' ride west." They reached the caves as Cole's fever spiked again. For 3 days, Ayana barely left his side. Makia hunted, while she fought to keep the man she'd come to love from slipping away into death's embrace. On the 3rd night, when Cole's fever finally broke, he opened his eyes to find her crying quietly beside him. "Hey," he whispered, his hand finding hers. "I'm okay. We're okay. You almost died. Again." "But I didn't. You saved me. Again." Cole struggled to sit up, ignoring her protests. "Ayana, I love you. I know it's fast. I know the timing's terrible. But I can't, I won't let another day pass without saying it. I love you." Ayana's tears flowed freely now. "I love you too. You impossible, reckless, beautiful man, I love you." Their kiss was salt and sweetness, promise and hope. When Makia cleared his throat from the cave entrance, they broke apart laughing. "The white man wants to court my sister properly?" Makia asked. but his eyes were warm with approval. Or has he already ruined her reputation? "I want to marry her," Cole said firmly. "If she'll have a broken-down bounty hunter with a price on his head and more enemies than sense." "Yes," Ayanna said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it." They married a week later, the ceremony performed by Makia, using the traditions of Ayanna's people. Cole spoke his vows in halting Comanche, learned phonetically, but spoken with absolute sincerity. Ayanna wore wildflowers in her hair, late-blooming asters that Cole had ridden 2 hours to find. "I promise to protect you," Cole said, "but never to cage you, to stand beside you, not in front of you, to honor your strength and trust your wisdom, and to love you until my last breath and whatever comes after." Ayanna's vows were equally simple. "I promise to be your partner in all things, to challenge you when you're wrong and support you when you're right, to share my heart, my life, and my dreams with you. Together, always." They built a life in those caves, at least for a while. Word spread among the scattered Comanche people that there was sanctuary there, that a white man and his native wife would turn no one away. Others joined them, creating a small community of the displaced and desperate. Cole taught them defensive strategies and survival skills from his years as a hunter. Ayanna shared her people's knowledge of the land, of healing and tracking. Makia became the bridge between cultures, translating not just language, but understanding. Spring arrived with unexpected news. Cole's name had been cleared. The senator's son, who'd put the price on his head, had been arrested for murder, killing a prostitute in a drunken rage. During the investigation, Cole's case had been reviewed and dismissed. He was free. "We could go anywhere," Cole said one morning, watching the sunrise with Ayanna in his arms. "California, Oregon, start fresh where nobody knows us." "Is that what you want?" Ayanna asked. "I want you. Everything else is negotiable." He kissed the top of her head. "But I'm asking what you want." Ayanna looked out at the prairie, at the small community they'd built, at her brother, teaching young children to ride and hunt. "I want to stay. This is our home now, our people. Together." "Together," Cole agreed. Months passed. The settlement grew. They built permanent structures, established trade with sympathetic settlements, created something that looked almost like peace. It wasn't easy. There were raids to defend against, illnesses to survive, the constant threat of soldiers forcing them onto reservations. But they endured, and more than that, they thrived. On a cool autumn evening 2 years after they'd met, Ayanna stood in the doorway of their home, a real house now, built with Cole's hands and her planning. She watched him teaching a group of children to carve wood, his patience infinite as he showed them how to feel the grain. He looked up, caught her watching, and smiled, that beautiful, rare smile that still made her heart stutter. "What?" he called. "Just thinking about how things change," she called back. How the Comanche woman shared her blanket with a stranger, not knowing he was a wanted bounty hunter. Cole crossed the yard to her, pulled her into his arms. "And now? Now I'm sharing everything with my husband, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat." Their kiss was witnessed by the children, who made appropriately disgusted noises. Cole laughed. That sound as precious to Ayanna as her own breath. "I love you," he murmured. "My brave, brilliant, beautiful wife." "I love you," she replied. "My impossible, devoted, wonderful husband." As the sun set over their settlement, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, they stood together. Two people who'd lost everything and found each other. Two souls who'd shared a blanket on the coldest night and built a life from those first fragile sparks of warmth. Together, they'd survived. Together, they'd build something even better than survival. They'd build hope. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Ayanna and Cole's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.